So Silksong released. Help me, I haven't slept all week.
Wake up, little guy.
And needless to say, I've been enjoying it. It's the night of September 15th, 2025. And I've not beaten all Act 1 bosses on Steel Soul and Regular Soul, so I now feel ready to rank them. Now I guess I should lay out the foundation. A name has to appear in the corner when the fight begins in order to be a boss. I mean, goodness, even Soul Warrior did this. So despite popular rules, Scarguard is not a boss, and Rhino Grund definitely isn't. And that isn't to say I don't like these encounters, because I do. And maybe they could have been bosses in Hollow Knight, but we've upgraded. I mean, the Craggler, really? If this was a boss, then Team Cherry failed. If you're wondering, or care that much though, they would be in 15th, 14th, and 13th respectively. This leaves us with 12 real bosses to rank, with that bottom spot going to... I'm sure it goes without saying, but I have nothing against this fight. Except The first fight is the first Moss Mother fight. You'll learn to do that, and this, and yes, there are ads in the first fight. I hope that won't be a reoccurring issue. Oh no! I think this boss does a good job at teaching the player the ropes. So explain to me what the hell this teaches me! Now, I think some people way over-exaggerate how difficult this encounter is, because I personally never died in this room. I know. No, the reason I hate this is because it immediately makes the boss feel less special. It's the same deal as Gruzmother and Vengefly King in Hollow Knight. I don't like it. You also fight them again in Act 3. Gross! I'll cap off this section by saying, I think this boss is a clear downgrade from Hollow Knight's first mandatory boss, False Knight. The only thing I think they improved on was the time to reach the boss. You can reach Moss Mother in like 6 minutes on your first playthrough, while a lot of people quit Hollow Knight before ever reaching False Knight. It was a very engaging fight, while all this beast does is fly. Beast, fly, beast, fly, beast, fly, fly. Beast, beast. Now, it feels criminal to put this boss this low, because I don't hate this guy nearly as much as everybody else seems to. Yes, even the second fight. I love his design and the sounds he makes too. However, it goes lower on this list purely because I can see the issues with the fight, even if they don't bother me as much as everybody else. I do think I have 2 or 3 ideas that would make this fight immediately better, though. Firstly, the Beastfly has the ability when doing his attack to kill his ads. However, he can only do this if they're touching or near the ground, meaning the flying enemies, aka the ones that make people want to kill themselves, are the ones that are mostly immune to this. He should be able to kill enemies at any point during his slam, not just on the floor. Also, when I saw these spiky guys, I immediately assumed that if I got him to slam these guys, he would take damage. Unfortunately, I have better ideas than Team Cherry. Luckily, the second Beastfly fight really scratches itches in places I never knew I had. The second fight is a genuinely creative and engaging spin on the original, and I think you guys need to get over your crippling skill issues. I know it's Act 2, but it's early Act 2, whatever. I'm not docking points. And despite that, against my likely better, superior judgment, this fight is ever so slightly below the next 2 on the list. The first time I fought this boss, I was shocked. I was not expecting a double damage boss this early into the game. Turns out that was going to be most of them. The caveat, however, is that it's really easy. Really cool, however. I loved the sound design on this fight, or the sound effects, you plebeians. The constant My only little tiny itsy bitsy issue with the fight is the ending. I wish we actually tamed the Bell Beast. Instead, we just beat the tar out of it until it likes us now. I guess it could be because it freed us. I guess it could be because we freed it, but I don't know. I feel like we could have had something between this and this. I feel like it could have been cute if the beast was like worried about us after we passed out on the ground or something. I don't know. It's fine though. The attacks are decently satisfying for a fight this early. It gets a bit more fun once you quit sucking at the game. So the only thing this fight could have done with is could have been hotter. Could have been hot. My absolute favorite part of this fight is that she blocks pins you throw at her before the fight starts. That was a lie, of course. It's the music, and trust me, things get awkward without the music. It's been one of my favorite Hollow Knight / Christopher Larkin works for a while, so finally hearing it in-game really hit. Now, I'm sorry it looks like Hornet's wearing an ankle monitor strapped to a leg iron. I had to really dumb down the fight to make sure I could get footage of everything because she's very easy and fragile, but satisfying nonetheless. I really love her parry, but it does feel lacking upon a refight after Lace 2 and Lost Lace. All of the attacks in the fight are very fluid, and I think it's a significant increase in complexity from the Bell Beast, which was very well done. Don't know how that made made it easier, but I digress. I also really enjoyed the little details in this fight, which really pull everything together. Like, she seemingly mocks you after getting a parry, laughs when you die, which I don't have footage for, and you can stagger her into the lava, which I don't normally support searing your girlfriend because Hornet's 100% a lesbian, but it is quite epic here. It's crazy we have this high quality of a fight this soon into the game. Her future fights just improve upon her moveset so much though that it's hard not to feel a bit bored by this version. Which yes, Lace 2 and Lost Lace will obviously be counted as different bosses than Lace 1. However, the same cannot be said about our next boss. Now, I'm sure some of you are trying to invent a way to nuke somebody through a screen right now. Putting Skull Tyrant above Lace might be considered blasphemy to some, but I'm here to give this guy the credit he deserves. I'll hold my one big complaint for this guy later. I'll be positive for a bit. The sound design, sound effects of this boss are great. There is constant noise, which really pairs well with the music. And there's only constant noise because there's constant action. This fight tickles all but one of my senses. There's always something happening, whether he's jumping around, charging, or the constant rain of rubble from the ceiling. This fight does not let up for even a moment. That's not to say it's necessarily even difficult, it just ensures that you're moving constantly without any breaks. You also can't hurt him by pogoing, so you're forced to get near him, and you bet he does double it. But what if it was better? He has the exact same moveset, but the setting is so much cooler, and he can do this. I was actually shocked when I realized that everybody in the town was actually dead. No quest to go get some healing supplies, no bandages. Nearly everyone was dead, and the town was set back to 0 again. This was a last-second change. Not even my ranking doc has Conch Flies at 7. In fact, they were originally at 4th place before I played Steel Soul, so it really sucks to see them fall so far, because out of all the bosses in the trailer, this one exceeded my expectations the most. I've always liked how the boss looked, but I always thought this fight was just going to end up being a sort of throwaway fight that you just forget about. Maybe drop a cool or nice, but no. It was so much faster than I was anticipating, and they have attacks that aren't just coming in and out of the walls, which I wasn't expecting. They also move in such a mesmerizing way. They'll flip over while still moving, and it just caresses my load. I'm still trying so hard not to move them to 6th place at the least, but I just can't. They settle here because I will admit they are quite easy and not too important in the long run. But don't you worry, I still have Raging Conch Flies to glaze in Act 2. I'm sorry this footage has me stumbling around. This was my first Steel Soul attempt where I was too afraid to touch anything. But trust me, this fight can be so much more amazing. I'm watching this back and actually getting mad. Like, punish the attack! I did recreate the trailer shot though, so that's cool. I love them. They should be in 6th. Jesus Christ, surely they should be in 6th. This little stretch of rankings here, 8th through 4th, were the hardest spots to settle on because they're all so equally amazing. I went back and forth for a solid half hour on this, 7th spot alone, and I'm still not satisfied. Morrowind is the most overhated boss in the game, full stop. I really don't get the issue people have with him, not even on my first playthrough. He's very fun to pogo off of, and playing aggressively on this fight feels incredibly rewarding. So I think it might be those pesky little skill issues again. And if you suck that bad, there's a cheese spot. You're welcome. That's not gonna make you like the boss more, but at least you won't kill yourself. You also get to fight with Garment, and I love how interactive he is. He can get knocked over, block attacks, obviously attack, and it's so funny when you stun Morwing and you both just start frantically wailing on him. The Saw Blades also encourage the use of the Float Cloak, as I'm gonna call it, which is one of my favorite additions to Hornet's moveset, as you'll see going forward. Overall, a great fight that really ramps up the difficulty early game, like, significantly. I did no-hit him here, but good god, he's so much harder than the As much as I'd love to put him in 4th, it's hard enough to justify him getting to 5th, but I'll try. Of course, the obvious, he looks really cool. He's got a pretty cool boss intro too, being one of the only bosses that you can see and can enter the room, but will only activate after coming back after doing something. Now that was a lot, because he's the only one that does that. He'll only activate after getting the Float Cloak. Oh my god. It's a fight based around the Float Cloak. I love to use the Drifter's Cloak in this fight. You use it to float over the hands. I mean, you could just jump. That'd be more optimal. But shut up. Inarguably, however, this bit at the end where you have to drop the explosive on his head, which was something I actually missed on my first playthrough. I was really struggling to figure out why the air columns were there, but he's possible to take down without the rock, which looks like this, by the way. It's the same. But the rock is a much cooler and faster finisher. However, I wouldn't say more fun. I actually really enjoyed the smaller platform on my first run. Let me do more Drifter's Cloak shenanigans. The only thing that makes me feel like he should be in 6th, but I'm just going to ignore that before I start moving things around again. He's so easy. Flap and Flotsam, they made a boss with longer telegraphs than False Knight. This Clanker had absolutely no chance of turning me into a phantom. a phantom. You know, I saw Sister Splinter in the trailer and frowned that was going to be a boss. I should have smiled. We start off strong with the vines trapping you in the arena. I like how she traps you assuming you're just another fodder enemy for her to eat, I guess. You know, usually plants eat through a process called photogenics, but I guess we already killed the basic swipes are really interesting, because while you could dash like this, getting a hit or two between swipes, you're really rewarded for learning to teeter the line and slightly adjust between the hits. I also really like the voice of this boss. They have this roar that they do sometimes. Kills with Silk Spear. Say this. I really like the incentive to use the Silk Spear in this fight, because they have adds and these breakable vines which can be melted with one Silk Spear. Guess who didn't know they could break the vines on their first playthrough? This happened and I just said, huh. I guess other people had a more visceral reaction though, because why were they nerfed? I honestly don't even know what changed, but apparently they were. But yeah, this gal really grew on me. I remember thinking they were really ugly too. Not sure what I was on about. So yeah, I love how fast it is. I love the arena. I love the music. I love... Now, I'm glad I played the game on Steel Soul before releasing my abysmal opinions onto the internet, because you want to know where Phantom was before Steel Soul? 10th place. However, my eyes were opened and my soul was enlightened upon refight of this boss. I will say that it can still feel a bit floaty at times, which is my initial complaint, but in a sort of fun way. It's a very lace-adjacent fight, but like a lot faster and better. The only thing I really liked about this fight the first time was the music, and it still remains one of my favorite Silksong tracks. It really sells the boss for me, and while I'm fighting, you know I'll be hitting that. Looking back on my initial complaints, I said I wasn't a huge fan of the design, but it's grown on me a bit. I mean, I'm not crazy about it, but I also critique the dialogue or lack thereof, and that is true. I think it's a little weird that we don't exchange a single word. We don't know anything about this guy. We're just jumping straight to killing each other, but honestly, I kind of like it. We're just, yeah! Of course, another highlight would be the ending. What a sick way to learn the parry. I love unique fight endings that aren't just the boss blowing up, you know? You do something else, and then they blow up. I thought this gal was a guy when I saw those hips and that. Yeah! This fight was immediately my favorite and was already up there with a lot of my favorite Hollow Knight fights. And I've played a lot of Hollow Knight, but not even that bias could sway me. I'm actually going to start out talking about the beautiful noises that were feeding my ear, the most delicious, succulent. I really liked Widow's voice. It was funny hearing this little gremlin panting while running across the screen, followed by these really loud bell bangs. I guess I just love the sound of bells. Just a freak like that, because the constant barrage of bells dinging fills all my nearly 78 organs with joy. Then, because it just had to be more perfect, Widow has another one of my favorite tracks in the game. I feel it in my soul when they start ripping on that instrument, string kind. Now, trust me, I could sit here and listen to some spider lady yell in my ear while someone throws their bow and their violin with insane aggression for a pretty decent amount of time. But this fight's just as good mechanically as it is to listen to. Every attack in this fight is insanely fun, so let's just go down the list. The bells attack is 1, stunning. I love the flashes when the bells hit the ground. It's so pretty. You get 1 string of silk before the bells violently slam into the ground. No attack is better than one that feels good to dodge and still feels great to be hit by. This attack also gives you a lot of time to punish, and it feels so good to get a running attack on her before unleashing everything in an instant. And you know I love bells apparently, so yes, cover my floor with them. This fight has an excellent use of the Drifter's Cloak, and you know how I feel about that. Obviously, this was the one Widow attack we saw in the trailer, so it didn't catch me off guard or anything, but that did nothing to make pulling up the ground less epic. She's then got her slashes, which are pretty basic, but her starting in the air helps to make it a bit more interesting. And if you're wondering, yes, I did fall for the fake out on my first run. It'd be kind of weird if I fell for it twice. The tweaks in the second phase are really euphoric. Thank you, Thesaurus. Double the bells, have the swipes overlap with the bells, have sections of the arena be blasted with bells constantly, paired with a beautiful arena, undoubtedly one of the best Act 1 bosses, topped off with one of my favorite fight endings. Bye-bye, Widow! The start of this fight sets the tone right where it needs to be. I was honestly so sad she killed those pilgrims, but it's so good. Not sure why she said diarrhea though, that was kind of weird. I really like her voice though, it's very euphoric. She's got a really intense moveset. They aren't pulling any punches from the start, especially since phase 2 starts really quickly. The upgraded fire moves are where you really begin to realize you're dead. They're also unique though, especially the rings attack. I also adore the slam attack. It is such a crisp sound effect from the, oh my god, is that a bell? The fire version with that delayed shockwave is insanely cool. euphoric even. I'm very happy I replayed the game to fight this gal on tier, since I actually did Phantom Route on my first run. I believe I had the Fade Down Cloak and everything at this point. And speaking of my first run, yes, I was hit by the explosion. I believe the only reason I survived was the Fractured Mask, because it does a staggering 3 masks, but I don't care. It's one of the best boss endings I've ever seen, and I find it so satisfying that they again just go all out on this fight. Zero mercy, even in death. Then, in case that show wasn't enough to satiate you, you get treated with a gorgeous cutscene. Ari Gibson just locked in with every cutscene in this game. I'm assuming he drew them. The Last Judge is a perfect way to lead into Act 2, and for that it gets my first place spot. Wow, what an honor. I can't be the only one who thought The Last Judge was going to be a man, though. It is now September 20th, 2025 as I'm finishing up this script, and I've already cleared all of Act 2 on Steel Soul, so I guess I'll get to work on that now. By the time this is posted, I'll probably have all of Act 3 done and ranked, unless I die. If I do, I'll probably curl up in a ball, cry, and then go to sleep. Go outside.